Why selling in the fall market might be in your best interest here in 2024. That plus more coming your way here on the next edition of the Running Real Estate Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Running Real Estate Podcast. Today, we are back in our Berlin studio, and it feels great to be here. I wanted to reach out to you with a topic that I think is timely and something that you're going to want to listen to if you have been thinking about making a move. And when I say making a move, I'm talking about selling your property, whether it's to sell and you're done with the beach and cash in, or sell and make the move to the next property. And what I want to talk about here is timing with the fall market. So we are in a very unique situation where I'll just back up and kind of give you a snapshot into history here as to what's gone on in the last 4 years. But many of you will recall in 2019, we had a fairly normal real estate market. And I would argue that was our last real normal real estate market, for whatever normal is. But we had a spot where inventory was relatively low. Our number of transactions were doing very well, and they were increasing year over year. Interest rates were in a mid-level range. But then, as many of us know, we got into 2020 and the whole world shut down, right? And for a period of time in March, April, May of 2020, the number of real estate transactions and the number of transactions in anything around the world pretty much came to a halt. But then coming out of that, as we now know, looking back on history, the real estate market took off. And we went to some of the lowest inventory levels of all time while we had the greatest demand. So what did that do? That made our prices shoot up. And the number of transactions were at their all-time highs. Nationwide and here at the beach, the number of real estate transactions took off. A lot of that was fueled by the fact that interest rates were brought down. And I want to give you the history on interest rates. Many people say to me like, oh, interest rates are going to just come down. And there's a reason why they come down. And typically, interest rates come down and or the Fed reduces the federal funds rate when it's needed, meaning the economy starts to slow or they need to stimulate the economy some way, and they do that by bringing down rates. So we saw an emergency rate cut in 2020, which then translated into lower mortgage rates, which then helped with that whole demand piece. And rates got down, as we know, into the mid-twos. Not everybody took advantage of that, but there are some people that I talk to. It's like, I've got a 30-year fixed interest rate in the 2% range, which is unheard of, and we probably never will see again. But as we fast forward, 2020, 2021 were very busy years. And then we hit a wall in June of 22. And that is when the Fed changed policy, changed course, and needed to slow the economy down, slow inflation down. And they immediately started ratcheting up interest rates. And the world we've been in from a real estate standpoint since June of 2022 has been a recession mode as far as number of transactions go. Every year, every month since 2022, the number of real estate transactions has declined, while at the same time, our prices have increased. And some of that had to do with, even though we had lower demand, we still had very low inventory. So fast forward to today, and we are now in the fall of 2024. And we just had a historic announcement last week where the Fed has changed course again and has decided it's time to reduce the federal funds rate. And we saw that with a historic half-point reduction last week. Mortgage interest rates have already been coming down for roughly the last 13 weeks. And if we look back to where we were a year ago at this time, we were at close to 8% interest rates, while today we are just over 6% and flirting with the upper fives for a 30-year fixed. If you're in the 15-year mortgage, already in the mid-fives. Your government loans, your FHA, your VA, your USDA, they're in the 5 3/4 range already today. So there is this historic move by the Fed, which has indicated that rates will come down. And we've had mortgage rates that are out ahead of that. And what it's doing is the public is now picking up on the fact that our rates are more advantageous. And a buyer is starting to realize that the difference between even this last April, when we were at 7.5% interest rates, compared to today at just over 6%, when you have a $400,000 mortgage, that's a difference in savings today versus just this past spring in April of roughly $400 a month that buyer is saving. So now, here's where I'm going with this. The public is starting to pick up on this. Buyers are starting to pick up on this. And sellers maybe have not yet quite picked up on it. And we have this group of sellers that has wanted to make a move, whether it be to downsize to a smaller home, upsize to a larger home. A life event could have taken place. And, I hate to say it, but divorces and people pass away or people have babies and people get married. All these life events which cause people to do something in real estate, to make a move. Well, there's been a lot of people that have been sidelined, just waiting for the opportunity to jump back in the market. And they've been watching and watching. And it's felt like it's been out of reach, primarily because of interest rates. So, now, the public and those buyers are starting to pick up on the fact that rates are lower. And at the same time, our sellers, who then would become buyers, are picking up on this, right? So what it's doing is we are still in a very low inventory environment. And we are at the pinnacle of the real estate market. So for the longest time, we had prices going like this. Well, now we're kind of at that pinnacle. So if I'm a seller, I'm looking at the market and I'm thinking to myself, we're at the pinnacle of pricing, right? And demand is starting to pick up and pick up quickly with these lower rates. That means there's more buyers coming into the marketplace that might want to buy my home. And at the same time, there's relatively low inventory. So this is coming together to almost be the perfect storm for sellers. And I am suggesting that if you have considered making a move, you may want to do it this fall and get out ahead of the competition. Because I believe as time goes on, we're going to see more sellers enter the marketplace, right? And so when more sellers enter the marketplace, that means there's more competition for you as a seller. And when there's more competition and equal number of buyers, whoever can offer the best all-around package and deal and sometimes incentivize them with a lower price is going to be the home that sells. So right now, we're at this point where there might not be a lot of competition. If we use Ocean City as an example, there are a number of buildings in Ocean City where there might only be one or two properties for sale. And this is in a 400-unit building. So that's very low competition, where in years past, say 2016, 17, 18, 19, there might be 5 to say 10 properties for sale at any given time in those buildings. So I feel that the combination of lower rates, which is increasing the demand with low inventory and the absolute pinnacle of the pricing level is coming together to equal a perfect storm for you as a seller to take advantage and possibly have the best of all worlds where you can put as much money in your pocket as you possibly can and have more people trying to buy your home. So that's just my take on it. The other thing you might want to consider is if you need to sell and then also buy, especially in the second home market, you might be able to sell at the pinnacle level here in the fall. And when there's more inventory that comes on the market, possibly, say, in the spring, you'll have more to choose from in that case. So just some things to think about here as we are in this ever-changing real estate world and something that I study on a daily basis. So if you should have any questions about the market in general, any specific areas and or questions specifically about selling your property, reach out to me and my team as we would love to assist in any way that we can. So there you have it, back in the Berlin studio here for another edition of the Running Real Estate Podcast. If you like this information, please share it with a friend. Share it with somebody who may be thinking about selling. Hopefully it'll help them out. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you back here next time with another edition of the Running Real Estate Podcast.